It's not about the answer, it's about the question. Stick with me for a minute and I'm going to tell you why. In my last video, I discussed strategies that you can use to build empathy with those that you're working on designing solutions for in order to inform your problem statement. Now, I want to share some tips with you for how to craft compelling how might we questions to guide your design thinking journey. A how might we question, often just abbreviated as HMW, is your guiding light as you move through a design challenge. It's the overarching question that represents the problem that you're trying to solve and ensures that you're working on solving the right problem. Your how might we question will also frame your ideation process, which you can learn more about in the next episode. Let's explore a few ways to formulate really great how might we questions. We'll use an example that we've all been a part of in one way or another, and we've gained a number of insights in, and that's distance learning. In a purely distance learning setting, many students have engaged in a learning experience in a dramatically different way than they had been used to in person. This has raised challenges related from everything to student disengagement, to internet connectivity issues, to incorporating, hey, you're on mute, increasingly into our vernacular. So for starters, you can structure a how might we question using a mad-lib, like this one. Start with an action, move on to a challenge or the subject of the change that you want to see, and then your intended outcome. Let's look at some examples. So first of all, how might we design our school's weekly schedule to allow for more flexibility for teachers with children? Or how might we create opportunities to support students' social emotional well-being in a virtual environment? Building off of that structure, you can also use the following frames to put a spin on your question that encourage you to think about your problem and potential solutions in a new way. Here's a few examples that I'm borrowing from the Stanford D.school. I'm going to put a link to a comprehensive list down below so you can check those out for yourself when you're done with the video. One frame of reference for your how might we question is to amp up the good, or dissect your problem down into smaller parts to find potentially positive outcomes that may have resulted, and think about ways to build them up. For example, how might we leverage the flexibility granted to us through distance learning to turn the greater community into an extension of our classroom? One of my favorites is to create an analogy from an insight or context. This can really get you thinking outside the box. For example, how might we make asynchronous learning more like a carnival or a scavenger hunt? Or how might we make one-on-one check-ins with students incorporate elements of their favorite video games? Lastly, you can focus on one element. Distance learning is complex and has many moving pieces, so you can narrow in on a specific element that'll have a more significant impact. For example, how might we establish a strong sense of community connectedness among students at the beginning of every synchronous learning experience? A few additional considerations to help you get started. First of all, your how might we question should open the door to a number of different possibilities. You don't want to be too narrow and eliminate opportunities for innovative solutions. You also don't want to be too broad. There needs to be a certain degree of focus to your question so that your ideation phase isn't all over the place. And after all, creativity thrives with some constraints. And remember, you won't get it right the first time. Practicing writing how might we questions will help this to become more second nature. That leads me to my to-do for you. Take some time this week to practice coming up with how might we questions that attempt to frame challenges that you come across in your everyday work and life. For example, how might we make waking up in the morning more like a spa? Or how might we foster innovation on our team by creating opportunities for random collisions that used to happen in person? Be sure to like, subscribe, and share your comments and thoughts below. See you next time, and happy designing!